Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Sean from Splashpage, and as always, I'm joined by Andrew. And Andrew, it's great to be back. How's everything going?
Hey, welcome back, Sean. Everything's great on this side. Glad we could get back on camera for a little bit.
Yeah. For those paying attention, we took a little bit of a hiatus in the dog days of summer. Knowing that Invincible has long since ended, we are still doing a number of those videos. But the next show we really want to review has just released its first trailer, and we're going to jump into that.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, what do you know about Y: The Last Man?
I think I know what everyone else knows who hasn't read the comic. I know the basic storyline, that we've got a world where something happens to men and they all die out and the world is now run by women.
Yes.
That's all I know about this.
Yeah, that is the 30,000-foot view.
Yeah.
and what we're going to do in this video today is we will talk a little bit about the high-level explanation of the comic, and then we'll jump in and take you frame for frame through the trailer.
And we'll find out why The Last Man?
Well, we're not going to do any giant spoilers here, so
Okay.
We'll say we'll find out what The Last Man. So Y: The Last Man was a comic from Brian K. Vaughan that ran from 2002 to 2006. It was a 60-issue run, a very, very highly acclaimed one at that. It came out on Vertigo Comics, and at the time Vertigo was pumping out nothing but brilliance. Y: The Last Man just being one of those brilliant comics. It follows a man and his monkey, Yorrick and his monkey ampersand, as they trek through a world, as Andrew pointed out, that all mammal males have been killed instantly. So in a flash event, every single male has died, and that leaves an impending doom over society. And not because it's men. If half of the population just died instantly, stuff would go down, and it wouldn't be good.
If I could cut you off for a second, you said all male mammals, so we still got male alligators, that kind of thing, birds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. From my memory of the story, for sure. The story kicks off in New York City, where we're introduced to Yorrick, who is a magician. He's actually an escape artist by trade, so basically he's unemployed. And he is dating a woman named Beth, who he's very much in love with and wanting to propose to her, who is in Australia when this giant occurrence of all males dying happens. So they are a world apart, and that's really what kicks Yorrick into gear to have to trek across the country and then across the world to find his love.
This is sounding a lot to me like another show that just came out on Netflix, Sweet Tooth, in a somewhat post-apocalyptic world where the main character has to trek across the country to find, in that case, his mother.
Yeah, which in that show, it's also a deviation from the initial comic as well, because the mother plotline wasn't that important in the comic. So
right.
I think it's easier for the audience to digest this type of story rather than more of a wandering, rambling story, if that makes sense.
A wandering deer boy and his badass friend.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about this show, or at least about the comic. Like, we've got Yorrick and his monkey. Does he hide? Is he keeping the fact that he's a man alive secret from everyone? Is that part of the plotline?
It is, yes, because a lot of the communications, TV and some of the phones have gone down, so mass comms isn't as frequent or common. And if Yorrick is discovered in one place, he can try to run and outrun it. So at a number of times, he actually walks around wearing a gas mask and pretty much a full poncho, so that no one can tell that he's a male.
So he's dressed kind of like one of the main characters from another Netflix show coming out, The Sandman with the gas mask.
a lot of similarities in different comic properties.
It's one of those, the whole world is combining. Yorrick, that's a Shakespeare name, yeah?
Yeah, Yorrick is, I believe, the skull that is held during Hamlet's little speech. So
he's a Shakespeare character that we never actually get to see because he's dead before the play starts.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I believe the way that this is explained in the comic is that Yorrick's dad was a professor and lover of literature. So his name is Yorrick, and his sister's name is Hero, which is a character's name in Much Ado About Nothing,
Oh,
another Shakespeare.
I thought she was named after Big Hero 6.
Like, you know what? Maybe that is what they're going to do in the show to modern it up a little bit.
Now, I think you mentioned to me before, but we see his sister in the preview, right?
Yes, she is the paramedic. Her and her boyfriend, who also is a paramedic, are kind of fooling around in the back of an ambulance before the moment hits where
Right.
all men die. So, it's traumatizing on everyone that is remaining, but that is a particularly dark moment for her character.
And Yorick's mother, she's still alive?
She is. She is actually a member of the House of Representatives. I believe in the comics she's from Ohio and a Democrat. So when the plague or the moment where all the men die hit, she is in a position of leadership. And ironically, when this takes place in this story, the Democrats kind of take power because there are just more female Democrats in the Senate and in the House than there were females on the Republican side
Right.
in 2002 when the comic took place. So they kind of de facto take over some power. And you actually see a number of clips where the Republican wives are trying to establish themselves as different members of the government.
So there's kind of a power struggle going on there, which makes sense. Half the
Yep.
population dies off. There's going to be a power struggle no matter which half
Exactly.
dies off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we also saw a woman in glasses tell Yorick he's reproductively interesting, which is a fun way of saying, why are you alive?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's Dr. Allison Mann. She is a key character throughout the story and an incredible geneticist and was raised in a very well-to-do family. She also has a side project going on before the moment hits that is pretty intense from a science standpoint that I don't know if they'll leave in the show or not. I don't want to spoil it, but needless to say, her research and her involvement will help move the story along, and we get more information, more concrete evidence as to why all of the men died.
So there's a reason she's in the trailer. There's a backstory there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
the biggest part of this, that badass Ashley Roman's just kicking ass. What's up with her?
Yeah, her character name is 355, and it's a name that pretty much is with her for the entire run of the comic. 355 was actually the number appointed to a spy during the Revolutionary War that was stationed in New York. It's believed that she was an African American woman that was spying on the British and getting information through the Culper Ring to President or George Washington and the rebel army.
Pre-president, yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. So she she takes that name as kind of a remembrance of that person who helped during the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, and that is a really cool story that I hadn't even known about specifically. I knew about the culprit ring, but not about 355 specifically. But if anyone's interested, go out and look into the culprit ring. If you have any interest in espionage or Revolutionary War or American history or really anything, it's just a cool story. What else is there? What else is in the trailer?
Yeah, so we get the lovely thing about the trailer is it leaves a lot to the imagination. You do see the typical cars crashed in the street from every post-apocalyptic show, and then here it's pretty reasonable to think that would happen, considering there was just a moment where a bunch or 50% of the world died. And so a lot of people would have been in cars. A lot of people would have been flying planes. A lot of people, though all those situations were happening. So it's kind of a relief to see that being the case for a reason that makes sense, as opposed to just, some stuff happened and now there are cars in the street. I feel like that's such a typical thing to see in all of these shows.
I did like that one shot from above. Yorrick's running down the street, and the intersection kind of looks like a Y. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope they do that throughout the series and just put hidden letter Y everywhere.
That could be cool. I would be really down for that.
Forward
We
to
can
that.
make it a point to call that out on a weekly basis.
Yeah, if we find it. I don't know if they're going to do it, but if we find it, and if there's any way I can force it, I'll force it.
Yeah. Yes, you will. The last thing I'll mention is at the very beginning, we see a little bit of a montage of different people seeing, their sons and brothers and husbands and fathers dying, and the president being killed as well. Don't know how long they're going to have this be a part of the show. Similar to a lot of comics, the comics really just quickly go over that moment, and then unless it's in a flashback of a specific character, we don't jump around a ton. The first issue is a bit of a jump around, but we know that the first issue sometimes, when it gets translated to a show, happens in like 30 seconds. Yeah. So I'm hoping they don't spend too much time on a bunch of gory situations of men being killed off and family members finding them. I think we'll get that with a quick minute montage or just staying with our main characters. But it's kind of a gratuitous expansion of how terrible things are that a lot of shows do nowadays. I just don't think we need. Just in a flash, just show me the important stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. Andrew, why don't you tell them what's coming up next?
Well, obviously coming up next, we'll be covering Y the Last Man. We'll be covering The Sandman on Netflix a little bit. And if anyone's in New York, I will be at Comic-Con wandering around handing out stickers, so keep an eye out and say hi. We'll take...
Yeah, when is New York City
That
Comic-Con?
is mid-October. I forget the exact dates. I'll be there Friday, Saturday at least. And we'll try to do a video from there, or at least I will. I know you'll still be out in LA.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm unable to make it, but very much looking forward to hearing your experience there. I know we've been a few years in a row now before I moved out to LA, but if you see Andrew there, tell him what's up.
Yeah.
Tell him how much you love or hate the channel. Maybe he'll buy you a beer. He won't buy you a beer.
We'll see.
But yeah, feel free to come up and say what's up.
All right, that's it for us this week, right?
Absolutely. Keep an eye out for a few more Invincible videos coming out over the next few weeks. And thanks, everyone. Have a great day.